What's going on my fantasy basketball fans? Welcome to the School Fantasy Basketball Podcast. We are almost there, right? A lot of players are starting to come out of the health and safety protocol, but other players are going in. So some of your top dogs are now available, but you're still looking at your roster. And if you're like me, you still got about 8-9 players that are out. And so at the beginning of each week, you are already at a disadvantage against your opponent because your opponent most likely may have more players ready to play. And so you are looking for players to help you to ensure that you can stay competitive and compete week 12 in fantasy basketball. And tonight we are going to talk about a few players who may be able to help your team. You know, Ricky Rubio is out for the remainder of the season after a knee injury. And most of you did not draft him. However, you were able to pick him up and he has been producing. So nonetheless, if you are in a points-based league, that is 27, 28 guaranteed on a nightly basis and sometimes more, just depending on what he is doing. You don't have that production anymore and you already are struggling because you have injuries. So let's talk about some players who will fill that role that Rubio was fulfilling for your team and just some other players who will help you week 12. Guys, we will continue to hang in there and just keep on working the waiver wire and make great trades and just do our best because we are the best. Make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube channel. Again, if you want to see the video, go on and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And let's jump right into it. So, Happy New Year. It's New Year's Eve. I'm just going to tell you Happy New Year's because I won't record anything until 2022. So this will be the last recording for 2021. And I figured I'd give you guys some week 12 players to check for. Just keep in mind, if I do not mention a player in this video, check some other videos. And I have other players that I may have mentioned. My goal is to not try and keep mentioning the same players over and over unless I notice that, hey, this player is really producing and their percentage of being murdered is extremely low. My goal is to try to bring new players who can help you in fantasy basketball. Again, this is a season-long process, but with all of the players in the health and safety protocol, we're looking at things from a daily perspective on the waiver wire. I will let you know the players who has long-term potential and some players who are short-term help. And what I mean by short-term help, I mean they may be good for your game or just for that week. And again, that is where we are at. You have players who will be able to help you just for one game to help you stay competitive because you may start Monday, right? And not have any players. Like Monday, I didn't have anyone playing and I was already down 200 points. And I couldn't see a player that was really worth picking up. And I didn't want to drop any of my guys, but it wasn't really a lot out there. But nonetheless, it is what it is. So the first player, I've talked about him early on in preseason as well as throughout the season. I mentioned him early on this week for week 11. I'm going to mention him again. Terrence Mann is a great ad. Again, opportunity is key. He was going to have opportunity this season with Kawhi Leonard being out, but that opportunity has increased because Paul George is out. And so he is going to play at least 30, 35 minutes, maybe even 40 minutes on some nights. And he's a great ad. He's going to score the ball, okay? He's going to score the ball. It just going to happen. And so if you're looking for a guard or forward, he's a player that you should be able to rely on most nights. He, to me, is a long-term ad. However, he'll have those nights where he's inconsistent. Now, I say long-term unless Kawhi returns. If Kawhi decides to return this season, which I don't think he will, but you just never know, his value will decrease if Kawhi was to return. But with Paul George returning, and we're going to say 3-4 weeks, his production is going to decrease, and you'll notice that it'll be inconsistent once all of those players return. You got Reggie Jackson, who's going to be returning back soon from being in the protocol, and opportunity again. So for at least 3 weeks, you know that he's going to play at least a minimum of 35 minutes per game. And what the hell you think he's gonna be doing on playing 35 minutes? He's gonna be doing something. So pick him up and just utilize him. Okay, he's averaging 10 points on the season and 5.3 rebounds. That's going to increase drastically. I can see him at least averaging 14 points and maybe keep the rebounds in the same area. But again, when you're getting between 20 and 22 fantasy points on a nightly basis and it's inconsistent because you're inconsistent from game to game, more minutes, and this is going to be a drastic increase, should help that production. So if you have the opportunity to pick him up, pick him up. Frank Jackson, this is a short-term ad, and again, it's going to be consistent. Like the other night, he helped your team, but then last night he didn't help your team. It wasn't good production, but nonetheless, he still is able to help your team in the short term. And again, we are here. We are here just searching the waiver wire for players. I don't care who they are, how long they've been in the league, what their name is, what their role is. If they are producing right now, that's the player we want. Because if you look at your roster and you have more than 5 players out, then you have a problem, okay? And addressing that problem may be with a player like Frank Jackson one night. But with him, I still feel it's going to be hit or miss because he's just inconsistent. Even with an expanded row, he is still going to be inconsistent for me. He's averaging between 14 and 16 fantasy points on the season. That's obviously going to increase. Over the last 2 weeks, he's averaged a little over 13 points per game. He's only going to give you some points. So if you are looking at him in a categories-based league, I would not look at him. I would rather you go for Terrence Mann. Points-based league, yes, because again, we are in the business of points. I don't care if they're getting all their points from scoring. We want points, and he'll at least get you the points by scoring the ball. And again, keep in mind, this is short, super short term. And on a season, he averages 10.9 points and 1.5 rebounds. So again, when you look at it, it's only going to be points. Cunningham is out. Hayes is out. Grant is out. Jackson is out. Somebody's got to play, right? So Frank Jackson is going to play. All right. So let's talk about Eric Bledsoe. I've talked about Eric Bledsoe quite often this season, and he has some games where he's inconsistent, but for the most part, he has played very well. And with all that is going on, he should be a player that is added in most of your leagues. When you think about Jackson being out, he's pretty much stepped up. With him being out and now Paul George is being out, Jackson will be returning, but you got to think that load is going to mainly fall on Bledsoe and Jackson. They're the veterans, so it's going to pretty much fall more on those two guys. And I have no doubt that Bledsoe will be able to help you. He will be able to help you, okay? So on a season between 21 and 24 fantasy points, again, Paul George is out a minimum of 3 weeks. Kawhi is out, as you know, hasn't played yet this season. The last week, he has averaged over 16 points per game, 6.7 assists, and 2.7 steals. So he has been playing his tail off. And when you look at his season averages, 10.4 points. If you increase from 10.4 to 16.7 points, and then your assists almost increased by 3 or 4, you've been playing some really good basketball, and we want that player on our team. He's available in 2 leagues that I am in, so I'm thinking about picking him up, and I will not recommend players that I wouldn't consider in the leagues that I'm in. So again, I do have him in 1 league, and he has been a good add for my team, and he has helped my team, especially with all that has gone on. So if you can pick him up and use him, use them. We will use a player until they end up fallen off. A player like Bledsoe has the opportunity to continue to play well throughout the season, which makes him a great long-term add. And again, he'll have those games where he's inconsistent, but everybody's going to have those games where they're just not on, and he still will bounce back nicely. Let's talk about Dante DeVincenzo, guard with the Bucks. Okay, you know his minutes will start increasing. He just started playing this season, hasn't played much, and I envision him cutting into a lot of Pat Connaughton's minutes. You'll start noticing Pat's production decrease, and at times it'll be so inconsistent that you're not going to even want to waste your time. That is pretty much what's going to happen. Last season, he averaged 10.4 points, 5.7 rebounds, a little over 3 assists, 1 steal per game, which was solid. He's going to shoot a nice percentage from 3. And his minutes should start increasing. He's a player that is available, so you can just stash him on your bench and use him at times. I envision his role increasing along with his minutes. And so consider adding him. Now, this is a hot ad, and this is, to me, a short-term ad. Hamidou Diallo, guard/forward with the Pistons. He is going off. Okay, on the 29 versus the Knicks, 31 points, 13 rebounds, 4 steals. He went off on the Knicks, who was supposed to be a good team because they got Tibbs, defensive-minded coach. Yeah, he went off on the Knicks. He's going to get you between 17 and 19 fantasy points normally, but that has increased because you have players that are out. Jackson is out. Grant is out. Cunningham is out. Killian Hayes is out. They're all out. So it's either Frank Jackson or Diallo right now. And Diallo is showing that he can play. So and you also got to realize Grant is going to be out for quite a few more weeks. So this is short term again. On the season, he averages 9.5 points, 3.6 rebounds, and 1 steal. Last week, he's averaging over 23, almost 24 points per game, over 6.5 rebounds per game, which is really good. You're like, oh, okay. Very good production. That's a player you want to pick up. He's available in one of the leagues I am in, and I'm considering it. You know, again, you got to look at your roster and see if there's a player that you're willing to part ways with few games, because again, this is short-term value for me. I don't see this as long-term value. They have most of their main guys out, and somebody has to play, right? So he's playing, and he's playing well. So again, hop on a bandwagon and pick him up. Patrick Beverley has returned for the Timberwolves. He is playing more minutes than I ever expected him to play for the Timberwolves. It's going to get you between 22 and 24 fantasy points, averaging over 8 points per game, 4.6 rebounds, 4-point assists, and he's going to play great defense, which will lead to rebounds, steals, and blocks. So he's a player that you can add because he's getting the minutes, okay? He's getting the minutes, and that's going to at least help your team in a points-based league. I look at him strictly for a points-based league, okay? Now, Hassan Whiteside has been playing extremely well. Understand, with Whiteside being a backup on the Jazz, he's only going to see a certain amount of minutes. He's not going to play a whole lot of minutes, but he is very productive in his minutes. If he's only getting 19 minutes per game, he is very productive. 8 points, 6.7 rebounds, 1 block per game. That is great for a player who's only giving you 19 minutes. Just imagine if they will let him play 25 minutes per game. But, you know, they're not going to do that because they have their guy. So you got Rudy, obviously. So understand that he's only going to play a certain amount of minutes, but he's going to help your team. So if you have players like Karl-Anthony Towns that is in the protocol right now, Whiteside may be able to help. If you aren't able to get any of the backups for Whiteside, if you're unable to get any of the backups on the Timberwolves, then Whiteside should be able to help your team. Gary Harris is another player you can consider picking up. They have several players out right now. You got Ross out. You got Anthony out. I mean, it gets crazy with the amount of players out. So he's always been a player that's going to score the ball. We know that with Harris, he'll score the ball. Sometimes his shooting percentages won't be that great, but we don't care in a points-based league. We just want the points. And if he's going to get you the points, you utilize him, okay? The last 2 weeks, averaging 18 points per game. On the season, just 10. Remember, to me, and I'm telling you, this is a short-term ad. This is just as short as once Cole Anthony is back and Ross is back. Gary Harris, he still have a role, but it's not going to be worth you rostering. So keep that in mind. Let's talk about Monroe. He out here in the NBA again. Minnesota to sign Monroe. You got Vanderbilt and Towns in the protocol. Reed just got out of the protocol. He was in the protocol for one game. That's just unheard of. But again, I don't know what the protocol is. I guess things are constantly changing, and nonetheless, he still didn't play a whole lot of minutes. Monroe got the minutes, okay? In 2 games, averaging 9 points, 7.5 rebounds. Going to shoot a good percentage from the field. Yeah, 5 blocks and 5 assists. That's the blocks will come down. But again, with Monroe, he's always been a skilled big on the offensive end, and he's going to get you rebounds as well and shoot a nice percentage from the field. Short-term ad. Don't expect this to be long-term. If they do decide to put him on for the remainder of the season, it's still not going to be a large role. They have quite a few players over there that is getting minutes. And once Towns return, you already know. Okay? So short-term ad in daily fantasy, yes. Consider adding him as well. Okay, and let's talk about some players on my little practice squad. These are players that are wild cards. You just simply don't know what to expect. One night they may play very well, and the other night they may ruin your daggone chances over the week. But right now, you have to take chances because you just may be struggling. And so there may be a player like Luke Kennard that's available, and he may hurt your team some nights. But then there's going to be those nights where he's going to play well and score the ball and get you the points that you need to win. Some of these guys are more daily fantasy. So Luke Kennard, very inconsistent, okay? Very inconsistent. Opportunity is there. Paul George again is out. Kawhi is out. Opportunity is there. They traded for him and envisioned him having a much larger role. To me, that was just a fluke with the Pistons. But nonetheless, he's on the Clippers, and right now, the time is now for him. So he has opportunity to step up and score the ball and help us out in fantasy. Again, short term and very inconsistent, which is why he's on my practice squad here. Okay, this is D League. Okay, think of D League. Okay, not long term, and definitely a player that you're like, I don't know. It may work and it may not work. Okay, but at the end of the day, sometimes this is where you are. You are with a Luke Kennard, who typically is not going to be rostered, but right now is being rostered with all that is going on. RJ Hampton has been playing very well for the Orlando Magic. Again, Cole Anthony in the protocol. Cole Anthony out. Another player you should consider is Another player to consider is RJ Hampton for the Orlando Magic. Right now, Ross is out, Anthony is out. 2 of their more reliable players. Hampton is getting the minutes. A young, talented player. Last 3 games, he's averaged over 23 fantasy points, playing over 30 minutes. Take a chance on him. But to me, this is a short-term player. Even in daily, salary is low. So pick him up. And in daily, take a chance on him. Once Cole Anthony returns, don't take a chance on him. James Wiseman is a player that I would say you should stash on your bench because he's going to be returning soon. And he's definitely going to get the minutes once, he gets comfortable with being back on the court at full speed. So if he's available, I'll stash him on my bench. If you are in a league where you have IO slots, hopefully you haven't used all of yours, because I have used all of mine. So I can't afford to pick someone up like Wiseman, but he should pay off, especially in a dynasty league. If he's available in a dynasty league, and you know how dynasties work, you're looking for those young players. If he's available, pick him up for your dynasty league, especially. Obviously, Daly, no, because he's still out. Cam Reddish has been playing very well. Cam Reddish is a really good 3-and-D guy. Unfortunately, the Atlanta Hawks continue to draft the same damn position. I mean, they keep drafting the same dag-on players at the same position. It's like, come on, would you do something different? So normally when the Hawks are at full strength, Cam would play, but his minutes will be very inconsistent. He's been playing very, very well over the last 5 games. So take a chance on Cam. Even in daily fantasy, take a chance because they have quite a few players that are out. And the wild card of them all, Aaron Wiggins with OKC. Looking for a wild card guard/forward, then Wiggins is a player you can take a chance on, but don't come at waiver wire queen if it doesn't work. But right now, it's going to work. It's going to work until Josh Giddey returns. Once Josh Giddey returns, you don't even take the chance. But definitely daily fantasy. Last week, this young man averaged 16 points per game, a little 5 rebounds. Take a chance on him because right now we are taking chances on players we've never even heard of, and we're still winning. So take a chance on him. If you don't want to take a chance on him in your regular fantasy league and you play daily, go on and take a chance on him then because his salary is not going to be that high and he can help your team in the short term. I do not envision him as a long-term solution, but again, we are taking chances with our practice squad, aka D-League, which is really D-League. So these 5 guys are my extreme wild card players that you normally would not consider even taking 2-3 looks at, but right now we taking 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 looks at players because it's that serious with players in the protocol. But nonetheless, we are going to continue to work hard to continue to build our team again daily because we're taking things one day at a time with so many players being out for various reasons because you still got to consider injuries. And then a lot of players are more so out because they are in the protocol. But nonetheless, we're going to continue to hang in there, guys. All right, y'all. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you love listening to podcasts, go check us out. We're on Spotify, Apple, Google. We are everywhere. We're everywhere, y'all. If you love podcasts, go on and check us out. Make sure you leave some comments and share. Happy New Year. Be safe, be blessed, and I will see y'all in 2022. Peace.
Thanks for listening to The Score Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to The Score for more fun and great advice on how to win at fantasy basketball. And if you've got comments or questions about The Score, send them to waiverwirequeen@gmail.com. The Score.